We were just discussing that everywhere we go, typically when we hand out our business cards as women, they automatically assume it's Chanel. And today I ran into a woman multiple times, our paths intersected. I see her there and in the restroom and then in the coffee, I don't know what, we were constantly coming in contact with one another. And then I realized when she came up to me, she said, "I know why our paths have crossed like this." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "My name is Chanel." It's perfect, it's just perfect. You can imagine that a woman in heels and a dress and a blonde, that they don't automatically assume sexy and interesting gas ignition components, right? So today, ladies, I want to transition. I have never been good at fluff. My team here can kind of tell you that. Unfortunately, they would probably prefer that I'm a bit warmer and a bit more empathetic, and I wish I could say that I had the skill set of Mallory before me. That was awful, having me come right after her. But I wish I had that skill set. But I have to tell you, I sort of don't, and I think that my platform is a little bit different. So if you don't mind today, for the rest of this session, I am going to be a little bit real and a little bit raw with you. And I am going to make myself vulnerable with you. And I would ask you in your own heart and in your own mind to do the same thing. Could you do that with me today? Can I get a little real and a little raw and a little vulnerable with you? Okay, because I'm going to do that if you don't mind. So today, I want to talk with you about 3 things. And I know you're on information overload right now. And most of you sat on this side of the room, and I feel like there's a strong reason for that, because that's where the numbers are. But I know that it's overwhelming at this point. But I just want to say that if you'll hang in there with me, I'll try to be engaging. I will really try to finish on time. Robin said I have 3 hours, not a minute more. So I'm going to try to really get that all done. So 3 things I want to talk with you about today. I want to talk about knowing yourself, knowing our influencers, and knowing our mission. And you know, Erica shared about being authentic. I was in that breakout session today. How many of you were in Erica's session today about authenticity and leadership? It was fantastic, wasn't it? Oh, she's so funny. She's a good girl. Very good, Erica, for sure. It was wonderful. So I want to talk with you first about what it means to know ourselves. You know, I found it interesting. Just a little caveat. Most of the speakers today have either been down there or stood in one spot. If I fall, I'll kick my heels off and I'll do the bare feet thing for a while. But most women that I have found over the course of speaking and leadership roles and a number of things like that, I have found that each one of us oftentimes are in some state of identity crisis, and we don't even recognize it. We don't even recognize it. We don't know who we truly are inside. We can whip out our strengths and weaknesses, can't we? Like we do in any good interview. We can tell you what our strengths are, we can tell you what our weaknesses are, but sometimes we miss some underlying things there. And so I want to share with you a story today about unsolicited growth and lessons. Have you ever had unsolicited growth in your life? Right? That growth that comes along that you did not ask for? So I had a moment like that in my life. I'm going to share this story with you, so indulge me if you will. But it was a pivotal, life-changing moment for me about 15 years ago. And so my daughter is here, Kennedy, she's 23, she's getting married in December. My son got married in June. That's 2 weddings, 1 year, in case you're counting. I am broke. Just so you know, I've got nothing. So I'm selling plasma right after this. So my daughter and I, years ago, we were going to a mother-daughter banquet. I don't know if you're familiar, but we were with an organization. They were having a mother-daughter banquet. And so I went up to the woman in charge to buy tickets. Right? So I'm going to buy tickets for this event. And they're doing the exchange. And there's 2 young women standing next to her. And they're sisters. And I happen to know them not well. And the one sister's name is Gloria. She's probably in her mid-30s or so, and she is mentally handicapped. So she has the mental capacity of about a 9 or 10-year-old. And her sister Amy was standing right next to her. And Amy was in her late 20s or so, and she did not have the same mental handicap. However, she did have a speech issue and a bit of a stammer. and was slightly, I would say, slightly younger in thought. So they're standing there, and I go up to buy my tickets, and as I'm doing the exchange, Amy, the younger one, says, "Boy, we'd really like to go to the banquet, but we don't have a ride." And she says it kind of like out in the air, right? Like, we don't have a ride, like I wonder who's listening. And so I said to her, well, Amy, I can pick you guys up and take you. Kennedy and I are going. I'd be happy to do that. And she said, oh, that would be great. So I get my tickets, and I'm talking for just a moment. And she said, oh, yeah, but we don't have tickets. And I said, oh, well, okay. I was feeling kind of honorable that day, noble. And I said, oh, okay, I'll get your tickets for you. Oh, great, right? So she walks off. Fast forward to the day of the event. I pick up Amy and Gloria, and we go to the banquet. It's lovely, a couple hundred women, a lovely event, and we're wrapped up. And I'm standing there talking to a number of women. And these women are my friends. I have to tell you, these women are sharp. These women are thoughtful, servant heart, giving women. They're wonderful, wonderful women. And they thought that I was the same. And so I'm standing there with my friends, and as I'm standing there, we were in one of those restaurants. You're familiar with like the Cracker Barrels, the Dutch restaurants with the restaurant out front? This wasn't a Cracker Barrel, but it was a different Dutch restaurant. And so there was a store out front. So Amy, I'm stuck talking to the women. Amy comes up to me. I need some money. And I said, okay, well, what do you need money for? And she said, there's something in the store that my sister wants, and we don't have any money. And I said, oh, okay. So I'm a little put off, but I'm standing there with these women, and so, of course, I'm going to be everything gracious, right? And I said, okay. So I get in my purse, and I get out some money. I forget how much I handed her, but I gave her the money. And so I resume talking to the women, and a few minutes go by, and she makes a beeline for me again. I need more money. Really? So I smiled. You know that fake smile that you get? I smiled in front of my friends, and I said, wow, okay, Amy, well, I just gave you money. What do you need money for? And she said, well, what my sister wants, you didn't give us enough for it, so I need some more money. And I got this twist in my gut. You know that twist that you get? I just had this twist in my gut, and I thought, the audacity, right? But I'm in front of my friends, so I put the smile on, and I dig in my purse, and I pulled that money out, and I handed it to her begrudgingly in my heart. Smile on my face, begrudgingly in my heart, and I handed her the money. And just as she turned to walk away, she said, oh, can I have that? And so at each place setting when we came in was a little chocolate heart wrapped in foil, right? And this happened to be my chocolate heart that she wanted. And I said, well, Amy, they put them at every place setting. Didn't you get one? And she says, yeah, but I would like that one. You know, I probably was not going to take that chocolate heart with me that day. I wasn't. I didn't want it. I never wanted chocolate so bad in my life, right? Oh, that chocolate heart, that's what I've been thinking about all day, right? So I said, in front of my friends, okay, take it. So she takes it, she goes on. So I finished up talking to my friends, and I'm twisted in my gut. So let me tell you something, and you'll understand why in just a moment. This isn't a political statement, it's nothing like that. I have a very low tolerance for entitlement. Low tolerance. And so you'll understand that here in just a couple of moments. Again, that's not any kind of a statement, it's just a personal thing with me. So I'm churning all over this. I'm like, oh, the audacity. My mind's racing. What, do the people just give them stuff all the time? I shouldn't even say please or what's happening here? What's going on in the world? And I was so troubled by this, right? So now I'm angry. I got myself worked up inside. So we leave. We go to leave. I grab Kennedy. Come on, let's go. We're going out through the store, and I catch them. They kind of fall in line behind me as I'm leaving the restaurant. And as we're walking out, and I'm telling you, every word of this is truth. I couldn't have made this up. As we're walking out of the restaurant, Amy behind me, because we're kind of waiting, people going out, she went, "It's really too bad my sister got something and I didn't." I am furious inside. I'm boiling inside. So we go out, we get in the vehicle, Kennedy gets in, they're in the back seat, and we're driving, and I'm right, and about 10 minutes into the drive, we had a 30-minute drive home, about 10 minutes into the drive, I hear them in the back seat, "No, you ask her, you ask her, no, you ask her." And I was so angry at that point, I looked in my rearview mirror and I said, "What, girls?" And Amy says, "Gloria has something she wants to ask you." I said, "What, Gloria?" And she said, "I wanted to know if your daughter could have this." And she held up, I'm so sorry, it makes me so emotional, she held up this sucker in between our seats. Kennedy, you remember it. She holds it up in between the seats, and it's 2 to 3 times the size of this one. This is the biggest one I want to carry in my purse bag. But she holds it up in between the seats, and she said this, and I look down, and there's this sucker, and I look over Kennedy, her eyes were this big, right? Because they didn't get sweets when they were kids. We didn't do the whole junk food thing. So here's a big sucker staring in the eye, and as far as she knows, it's hers. So Gloria says, I wanted to know if she could have this. And I said, but Gloria, that's yours. That's yours. And she said, "No, I didn't buy it for me. I bought it for your daughter." So I argued with her, right? I had to argue with her, because if I could get her to just keep the sucker, I could feel better about the awful person that I was. So I said, "No, Gloria, no, it's yours. No, it's yours. I gave you the money. That's what you wanted." She said, "I didn't want it for me. I wanted it for your daughter." So I looked down, Kennedy's big blue eyes staring up at me, and I said, "Do you want that?" She went, "Yeah." And so I said, "Okay." And Gloria handed it to her, smile this big, right? So we're driving, and I am not feeling well at this point. We're driving, and a few moments later, I get a tap on my arm. "Hey, Teresa?" And it's Amy. I said, "What, Amy?" And she said, "Here, I want you to have this." She stuck out her hand in between the seats. And I looked down, and no kidding, in her hand was that chocolate heart in the foil. And I said, "Amy, you asked me for that, that's yours." And she said to me, "Exactly," she said to me. "I know, but I feel bad that your daughter got something and you didn't." It was a bad day getting worse. It was. I mean, I had no idea. I had no idea what was in me until that moment. It gets worse. So we're driving, and we get to their trailer park, right? They live in a trailer park, by the way. They don't have anything. The mom's sick. She's a shut-in. She can't leave. The girls are older. They have no father. And as we're pulling into the trailer park, she says to me, pull over up here." I said, "Where? That's not your place." And she said, "No, pull over by this dumpster over here. Pull over by the dumpster." And I said, "Why? Why would I pull over by the dumpster? Let me take you home." And she said, No. We're so thankful," this is Amy, "we're so thankful that you brought us, and we don't have any money to give you. We found a radio in there earlier today that we think you and your daughter would really like to have. So just pull over and we'll jump out and get it for you." And I said, I can't let you get in a dumpster. And she said, "But we don't have any money to give you for taking us." Sobering, right? If you would have asked me who I was or to define myself, define my attributes before that day, I would have said that I was kind and generous and giving. I had my flaws, yeah, but for the most part, a good person. But what I saw that day, that mirror that was held up in front of me, what I saw that day was ugly. It was ugly. That true me that was revealed through the minds and the lives of two young women, younger than me, two young women who had no clue that I was so angry, that I was so frustrated, that I was so twisted up. They had no clue. And yet they held this huge mirror up in front of me that night. So we get home, I take them home, right? They're thankful, thank you. We get home and we go in the house. I send Kennedy straight upstairs, go upstairs, get ready for bed. And she goes upstairs. As soon as that bathroom door closed, I collapsed on my stairs right there and I sobbed bitterly. Because I saw something in me that I didn't even know was there. Something that you don't come in contact with every day, right? Messed me up. So let me ask you a question, ladies. Let me ask you this question. What's your ugly? What's your ugly? Because you have it. I promise you, you have it. You may not see it, but I promise you, other people see it at times. I promise you, I still have it. I might not have that same ugly, but I've got ugly today. What's your ugly? It is so important. We spend so much time knowing our strengths and what we're great at, and that's fantastic, and we should put a ton of focus on that. Absolutely, it's what we do in our culture. We try not to focus so much on weaknesses, but if we don't know what those things are in us, they will rear their head at the worst times, right? In conflict, in struggle, in those types of situations. Some of the most sobering, humbling, heartwarming, and hysterical moments for me have been looking at myself, who I am, through the reflection of my children. Anybody? Anybody else? Yeah. Where they come in and you're like, whoa, where'd that come from? Oh yeah, right, that would be me. I've had a couple of those moments with my daughter. I'll tell this very quickly. One day she was a little bugger, right? She's like 2. She comes marching up to me. And she went, I don't know what she was going on about. She went, rah, 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 and she turned around and walked right in the microwave cart. And I said, that's what you get. Like that, right? So, and then I felt that. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. We must absolutely know who we are, the true, authentic us. We have to identify those things so that we can do damage control and fix those parts in us that need that work. Is the true version of us worth reproducing? Because I'm here to tell you that you are being reproduced in others around you, in your children, in your family, your friends, your co-workers. You are being reproduced. For that reason alone, I've told my children their entire lives, you will become like the people you spend your time with. So choose wisely, because you will, in some way, shape, or form. And what type of world am I creating as a result of my influence? These are key things that we must know. There are handouts on your table if you have them or want to use them. So how do we see it, ladies? How do we look past our initial reflection and see the deeper, more revealing parts of us? It's really about seeking truth for each one of us. We must be honest and sober-minded. This is key. We have to take an honest look at who we are. We must be sober-minded about it. We must solicit feedback. How many of you have ever done that? You've solicited feedback from others on who you are and what do they think about you. We make a regular practice of that at our company. We do it twice a year in an internal survey type thing where they assess the company and the leaders of the company, and then we also do a 360-degree peer review. I have to tell you, some of the most painful moments in my life have been from those reviews. Right? Some of the most painful moments in my life have been from those reviews. And be vulnerable. I say this all the time. We must, as women, here's what happens as women. We are so accustomed to being compared to men in the workplace, in the world. And so what happens is we think we have to be tough and strong, and we have to be focused and purposed and all of those things, and they're all great things. But we forget to be vulnerable. We're always trying not to be too vulnerable as women. And I'm here to tell you that never, ever, ever is there a time when trust exists without vulnerability. Never. There's never a time. So if you want trust in your relationships, if you want trust in the workplace, you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable. It's interesting that the truth that will often set us free is not usually the truth that we want to hear. But we have to make ourselves vulnerable enough to hear that. I have to tell you, I do that. I make myself vulnerable at my company. They know it, and they exercise the right to it. I can tell you that. Right? And you have to be willing to take that in. And it's important because it's important for our growth. Next, ladies, we must know our influencers. So this is an important topic for me. We have to understand our influencers, past, present, and future. So I'll tell you, I have an idea of what influencers are like and influences and what they do to our lives. So this is me. I used to have red hair, I think that's the color. This is me on your left and my sister Nikki on the right. I'm the oldest of 9 children. And here's the next picture. You would think that I absolutely dubbed for the worst teenage picture I could find, but I didn't. I just grabbed the first one that I found. And so I know a little something about influencers. Now, I had a challenging childhood. I grew up very poor. Both of my parents abandoned us. I was raised by my grandparents, and when I say poor, I mean poor. We didn't have a bathroom in our house. I'm not that old, by the way. We didn't have a bathroom in our house. We had an outhouse in the back field. Our kitchen was a chicken coop, true story, that the generous friends of my grandparents gave them. They weren't using it anymore for chickens. So they brought it up to the back of our house, attached it to the back of the house, broken up concrete floor and all. And that became our kitchen. They put kind of a makeshift counter in it with a sink. No running water, by the way, but a sink with a drain. And I took a bath, not often, in a metal wash tub. And the reason it was not often is because it was too difficult to fill the tub and to bathe us for my grandparents. So we had a well, and not the pretty one you see, like crank the thing and make a wish kind of stuff. We had a hole in the ground, big rats outside, right? A hole in the ground with a concrete slab over top of it. My grandfather would slide it over, and he would dip his bucket down on a rope, and he would bring the water in the house, and they would heat it up on the stove, and that became our bath water. And that's how we lived. It was very challenging. I was very dirty, you can imagine. And because I was very dirty, my hair was dirty, I was dirty, kids picked on me all the time. It was not uncommon to have my hair pulled, people saying, calling me dirty, calling me other names, and my clothes were ratty. I didn't have anything like that. As a matter of fact, I remember sitting in grade school, and looking over, I don't remember her name was Stacy Eels. I remember looking over at her and looking at her hands and thinking to myself, how do you get fingernails like that? They were so clean, like clean. How does that happen? I'm looking at mine and I'm so envious of her. And remember I said I was going to be vulnerable and raw and real with you? I was molested as a child from the ages of about 4 or 5 until 8 or 9 in that time frame. Some of it's a little fuzzy to me, maybe by choice. But I was molested by neighbors, plural. And as I got older, struggling through a number of things, when I was in the 10th grade for financial and other reasons, I quit school. I dropped out of high school. I had, when I was 20, I found out that the dad that I thought was my dad Growing up was not. Indeed, my dad was somebody else altogether that I didn't know and never met. And I'll tell you an interesting story about that in just a moment. So I know I never even saw. Gave me hope. Gave me opportunity. They believed in me. Believed in me. Tremendous, tremendous. One such mentor that I recall, and there are so many I have to tell you, but there's one, when I was with General Motors for a season, we had a manager there, and this is old school GM, by the way. Are you familiar with Lordstown? GM Lordstown? So I traveled different places for GM, but I was stationed out of Lordstown, and we had a manager there. He was a senior guy, been there forever, kind of up through the ranks, old school GM, harsh management type of stuff. His name was Gary, and I really liked him. Other people really questioned him. He would have not been your leader. I always say lead people, manage process, because nobody wants to be managed, but he was your manager, right? Old school manager. And boy, people come in, they have ulcers working for him and stuff. When he changed divisions, he would make that new division write an essay as to why their job was valuable. Right? This is who he was, right? But I liked him. I liked that. You know why I liked it? Because every day when I showed up, I knew what I was going to get. It was all out there. There was no ambiguity whatsoever. But anyhow, it was very interesting. So two quick stories about him that I just love. One is he had an office with a big glass window, right? And coming out into the main office area. And everybody would go in, and right inside of that window was a table and a little Fisher-Price boat. You're familiar? You've seen those Fisher-Price boats? The little Fisher-Price people on them? Yeah. So we had a thing in GM called People Finder. And you could look up anybody's name, and there's a picture and their profile. But he would print those out, cut out the little heads of the people in the department, and put them on the little Fisher-Price people. Here's the catch. There was a shark outside of the boat on the table with his picture on it. So every day, this is a true story, and it was not a joke, it was serious stuff. Every day, people would come in, and the very first place they would go is right in front of his office and look and see what their fate was for that day. Because they were either in the boat or they were out of the boat. And out of the boat was a bad place to be. True, this is a true story. The other thing that I love, let me tell you, he was such a hard manager. I was going to share this, but he was such a harsh manager that one day I came into work and it was pouring down rain outside. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Lordstown. There's still bullet holes in the side of the administration building because it used to be like old mafia stuff, right? Youngstown stuff. Anyhow, so I came in one day and I'm walking, it's pouring down outside. Except now it sounds like it's raining inside. I'm like, what's that? What's that sound? And I come over and I get to his office, and it is literally raining in his office. And just as I got to his doorway, he picked up his laptop and just the water out. And I looked at him and he said, "Don't ask." And I turned around and I walked away. Here's what happened. He was such a strong manager that the UAW had some issues there, and they actually went up. We were on the top floor of the admin building, and they drilled holes in the roof above his office. Now, I'm not kidding, this wasn't that long ago, just several years ago, 10 years ago or so. They drilled holes. How bad do you have to be to get, please don't have to drill holes? Don't do that to me. But in any case, so that's a story. But one other funny story about him, one day we had a 6 a.m. meeting, 6 or 6:15 a.m. meeting every single morning. You had to be there. If anybody knows me, that was a struggle. But you had to be there, and you had to be present, phones off, ready to go. In the meeting, you were going to talk about what was happening, what happened the night before, what's happening that day. And it's only for management, right? So you're all out there. We're in one such meeting, and Gary's talking and telling us about the day, right? This happened, that happened. And somebody's phone rings, and rings, and rings, and he stops, and he looks at this guy, and he said, "Answer it." And the guy's like, no, they'll quit. And he's like, "I said answer it, because I want to know why they're interrupting my meeting." And so just then the phone quit ringing, and he said the funniest thing. So he began to kind of berate this guy, right? Not maybe the best style of management, but he began to berate him. And then he makes this statement. And he makes a statement, he says, You've been screwing up since Moby Dick was a minnow." But again, when I talk about influencers, he really influenced me because you know what? Maybe some of what not to do in leadership, but he also influenced me because he was real. If you went to him and said, I have a problem, right now he was taking care of it. If you went to him and said, man, I have this concern over here, right now he was on it. He was always setting you up for success, and he greased my rails in General Motors, I can tell you that, and outside of that. So I really think the world of him. So, as a result of those positive influences in my life, I went back to school. I got my bachelor's degree in business, I got my master's degree in organizational leadership. I also learned to live a life of adventure and fun off of my bucket list. I have a bucket list. I do cross items off of it. My degrees were some of those items. But you see those harnesses? Those would be skydiving harnesses. So I've been skydiving a couple of times. I won't go into the details about that, but it is fun. If you haven't jumped, you should jump. Just try it. Haiti, Mallory was talking about Haiti, and this is my pitiful contribution to that. But I went to Haiti on a service trip, and this little girl here, so sweet. I was in the village of Lebec, and we were in orphanages and painting houses and things like that. Really a life-changing trip. I can see why she has the passion that she has. It's not for all of us, but an incredible thing. And this little girl, when you go, they speak Creole, and so it's bonjour or bonjour, depending on the time of day. So as I would go in, the first day is the picture in the background. And I went in and immediately she came up to me and put her arms up. Well, what do you do with that, right? So I pick her up and I'm holding her. I held her for well over an hour. She ended up falling asleep in my arms that first time. We went back a couple days later and a woman comes, I could see a woman coming from a porch right next to where we were. She's going, bonjour, 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 bonjour. And who's she talking to? There's a group of us. And she comes to me, and she gets the little girl, and she takes a dirty rag, and she wipes off her face and her hands, and she takes off her ratty little dress, and puts on that little outfit there, slips that on her, and then picks her up and hands her to me. And you see her sleeping there in my arms. Just in case you're wondering, it's about 150,000 degrees. I had sweat in places I didn't know could sweat. But it was so sweet. So crossing those items off of my bucket list, I have an amazing family today as a result of life-changing and things that are important to me. So I wanted to share this story with you very quickly about this specific situation in my life. Remember I told you that I found out that my dad wasn't my real dad? Remember that? My biological father? So it's a twisted family tree. I'm going to be quick about it so you understand. So the dad that raised me, didn't raise me, right, because he abandoned me, but I thought he was my dad. And then my biological father, the two families were best friends for many, many, many years. And so what ended up happening was my mom dated one gentleman, and there I was, and then she married his best friend, right, and had me, and oh, look, it's not what we thought, that kind of a situation. So, in any case, my dad, and I love my mom, by the way. I adore her completely. She's heard me share. She completely understands. And so, in any case, life goes on, and I never took the opportunity to try to find my biological father because I just, I'd settled into my life. I understood it for what it was. And at some point, I thought, you know what? At the inspiration of a friend, I thought, I'm going to go look for him. So I did. I hired a search company to find my dad. This was many years ago. And so, long story short, he calls me one day and says, hey, I have some information for you. Why don't you sit down? He said, I've got good news. I think I found your family. Great. So I call my grandma who raised me, and I said, look, is this them? Because remember, they knew each other. Oh, yeah, that's them. Those are their names. Okay, great. And I hung up with her. And he said, okay, but now I have bad news. He said, your dad died 2 years ago of a massive heart attack. In that moment, I realized I would never get to meet my father, ever. And the relationship, women, between a girl and her dad is important, is it not? I realized that I was never going to get to meet my father, and I went and I sat under a tree and I sobbed. I really did. I was so broken. And I was an adult at this time, so I go home and I take the file and I put it in the desk and I close the desk drawer. And I thought, that's it. So my grandma, that raised me, I called her and said, Chuck died. He died. And I'm so sorry to hear that, baby. And I'm sorry. So I just thought, okay, that's it. I got home the next night, and my phone rings. And so I answer the phone, and it's a woman. And she says, Teresa? I said, yes. And she said, Teresa, this is your grandma Edith, Chuck's mom. What? And she said, and before you say one word, I want you to know that we love you as if you were always here. You belong to us, and we love you. This is her. She is now 91 years old. If you can imagine, 91 years old and full of vim and vigor and all of those things. But what ended up happening was, then a week later, we ended up at Disney with the kids, and they surprised me, and they all showed up. My grandma, my aunt, my brother from my dad, they all showed up. It was an incredible experience. So life has a way, if you make the right choices, if you purpose to do the right things, life has a way of coming full circle. When you choose to surround yourself with the right people, somehow things come together. So why do I share these things with you? Why would I be so vulnerable and transparent with you about my story? There's one key reason. It's not for attention or self-focus or sympathy or empathy. I'm not looking for any of that. Just one reason. Because I'm a firm believer that your story could be the key that unlocks someone else's prison. Because people live in a bound spot a lot of times in their lives. Don't we, women? Don't we hide a lot? Don't we bury a lot? We accept a lot? The truth is that most of us never overcome personal struggles because we keep them buried deep. We keep them chained to our hearts, we enslaved to the past, to circumstances, to mindsets, all the while holding the key to the lock in our hands. And the sad thing is that we'd rather be bound than free most of the time because we are woefully creatures of habit. Am I hitting any sore spots? Yeah. It's true, isn't it, ladies? But we have the opportunity to turn that around, to turn those things around, to do good, to bring healing, to bring hope, and to turn around and be an influencer into somebody else's life, to bring things that maybe we didn't experience. So how do we do that? We leverage our resources to grow. Leverage our resources to grow. You have great, strong people around you, leverage that. Learn from them, ask their advice, get their input. How can I be better? What do I need to do differently? Second, be a self-feeder. We are sadly a consumer culture, aren't we? Feed me, feed me, feed me. It's who we are. We're a consumer-driven culture. Feed me. You give it to me. That's all we want. The challenge is for the people that are doing the feeding, and this is our psychology, and I was just sharing this with someone, the challenge is that today's applause and accolades and all of those things become tomorrow's expectation. That's the challenge. So you have to be a self-feeder. You have to constantly be pouring into yourself. Read videos. The world is our oyster right now, right? We have access to everything. Maybe too much stuff. And then you need to assess and decide and change. You know, I couldn't change the influencers in my life when I was a child and a young adult. I couldn't change those things. They were what they were. They were happening to me and around me. But you better believe, when I was able to choose, I started to. When I was able to choose, when I was able to flip that switch, I did. And we all have that right and that ability to choose. And finally, ladies, know your mission. And mission here can be translated in a number of different ways. So I want to share with you, we have a mission in Channel Products overall. And really, we don't talk about it a lot. We have our mission statement for our that's customer base, but we are a group of difference makers. We desire to make a difference in the lives of people. And we don't take that lightly. It's a pretty serious thing for us, and we get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I can tell you that there are a couple of people in the room here that really especially thrive on coordinating those things. So we did something recently. We had our company picnic a couple of weeks ago, and we actually divided our company up into 4 teams, and each one of them got matching shirts. You'll see that here in just a moment. Here's a team, and here's a team, there's a team, and there's a team. They each got matching shirts. And we got them each a limo bus, and we gave them each team $250. And it was a contest between the teams. What they had to do with that $250 was they had to go out and do as many random acts of kindness as they could do in the community and surrounding areas. And they had to be creative. We set up a bunch of rules around it to make sure that they didn't just go give somebody turn $50, but they, they got points for how many they did. There were a number of ways for them to win as a team. And so they did just that. Those 4 teams did over 100 random acts of kindness in our community and surrounding areas. Isn't that an incredible thing? And I have to tell you, I wish I could take credit for a fraction of it. I can't take credit for any of it because I'm in the pink shirt there. All they did was hand me a t-shirt and say, this is the time, show up. I had nothing to do with it whatsoever. It was people at this table right here that really, really pulled all of this off. Just a testament to the quality people and the things that when people are influenced the right way, the things that they'll do with their lives, the things that they'll do with a group of people just like this. They did things like, they took 3 dozen Gatorades to a group of construction workers on the street. They took coloring books to the children's ward at the local hospital. They went into a store and paid for a woman's prescriptions. They went into a dentist office. Now, here's the funny thing. Every time they did something, they had to take a picture of it and text it back to us with a description of what they were doing, because it's how we kept track, right? Because it was competition. So they went into a dentist office, one team did, and they gathered around a woman in a dental chair and took a picture of her. Oh, here we go. And am I getting that right? Did it happen just like that? Yeah. And so they paid for her copay? Was it her copay?
Yeah.
Paid for her copay. I mean, just the most outrageous things, but incredible acts of kindness throughout the community. And I'm telling you, put people to work serving together. There are 2 ways that people really come together. 2 ways people really come together. Women, whether it's in the workplace, whatever that means, 2 ways. Tragedy and difficulty and serving. You want people to come together? You want people in your workplace, in your family, in your organization outside of work, you want people to come together? Try to avoid the tragedy, but create service opportunities, right? It's the best way to bind people together and to motivate them. And I would be remiss if I didn't also include our channel family, our channel China family here. You notice there's only one blonde in the group. So without stereotyping, these are fantastic folks of ours. They're all of our employees in China, and there's way more than that now even. I think there's another 40 or so people. I don't know, they've added to it quite a bit since the last time I was there. So, but serve together, know your mission. So as a company, we know what our mission is. So we must understand why we are here. Why are you here? What is your purpose in life? What is it? Why do you do what you do every day? And your why can be translated and can often be found in your dreams. Clearly, identify your dreams. Identify them. What are they? And then finally, chase them unapologetically. Make no apologies for chasing your dreams. None whatsoever. So let me ask you this question. When did you stop dreaming? When did you stop dreaming? You know, Dr. Mackenzie spoke earlier, and she talked about losing your mojo and your childlike wonder. And I thought, yes, so many of us. So when did you stop dreaming? Because it is so fundamental to who we are. Let me ask it a different way. When is the last time that you dreamt about your life a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Let me ask it an even different way. Go back to when you were 20, 17, bright-eyed, fresh. Is this where you thought you would be in life? Are you right there? Are you in the place that you envisioned? Too often, we don't really accomplish what we've set out to accomplish. It's because we stop dreaming. You know, I see people who at one point in their life had big, audacious, disruptive dreams, and then kids, right? Bills, dissatisfying jobs to pay for the kids and the bills. We stop. We have women walking around not knowing their true identity and their true mission because we've forgotten how to dream. The vicious cycle continues until we eventually accept things as they are. We say we're content in life. All the while, we've just spent years, sometimes decades, negotiating away our dreams. I mean, it's silly, right? Some of us have even forgotten how to dream. Because who has time to dream anyhow? I don't have time. Dreams for people that are ungrounded or unstable. Right? They're out there. I live in reality. And dreams cost too much, take too much effort, and besides, we're too old for that anyhow, aren't we? But do they, and are we? Or is that just our way of making excuses for why we've stopped dreaming? You know, I'm sharing that I have 2 children, and there's one certain point for a lot of us women that we start to dream again in life. And it's when we have kids. It's when we have kids. Because we start to dream dreams for them, don't we? We dream dreams for their careers, their athletics, their academics. Don't get me wrong, it's wonderful to dream wonderful things for your kids. But in a lot of ways, it's just a cop-out. It's just a cop-out. Because in doing so, because we ourselves stop dreaming for ourselves, we neglect teaching them how to dream for themselves. We tell them you can be anything you want to be. Go do it. Except they follow our lead in most instances. And so they neglect to dream big, audacious dreams for themselves. And they go through the ropes, just like they see us going through the ropes. They get up, they go to school, they come home. They go to college, they come home. They look for a job. Right? Life. Look for a mate. They stop dreaming, if they ever dreamed at all, because they don't see it in us. They don't see that example lived out in us. It's really just a way for us to hide the fact that we've stopped dreaming for our own lives. It's that do as I say, not as I do thing, right? No matter where you are in life, no matter what age, no matter what your career is, it is never, ever too late to stop dreaming. I mean that. And sure, you might not be making the Olympic figure skating team right now in your life. That might not be happening. You might not sell everything that you have to travel the world with your 6 kids in tow. That's not going to happen. You may be at a stage in your career when you can't quit and devote 12 or 14 years to education to go be that doctor that you always dreamed of being when you were younger. That might not happen. But you can dream a new dream today. And you can't be bound by your old dreams that didn't happen. Now I'm going to use this example. I asked her if I could. There's a woman here, and I won't point her out, but some time ago, we have some meetings at work, and I was talking to our team there about dreams, about this very subject. And it was interesting because we did this whole thing, and I had them write down their dreams, and we talked around the room about tell us one dream that you had that never came to fruition, but that you still have a longing for in your heart. So she comes to me shortly after that day, and she says to me, in tears, she's crying, "I'm giving notice." I thought, oh, she was a real asset to her company. So I felt that instant panic, and I said, well, I don't understand. And she said, you know that talk you did on dreams? She said, what you said resonated with me. And I always had this dream over here, and so I'm giving notice to quit and go fulfill that dream. And I said, well, then what can I do to help you? And she went off for about 3.5 or so months until I saw her one day in my office again. And she again had tears in her eyes. And she said, I want to come back. You see, she'd gone to school, she did everything she said she was going to do in that amount of time. It was a course that she was taking, and she wanted to come back. And I said, why? That's what you always wanted to do. And she said, I know, but then once I got there, I realized that it wasn't really a fit for me. It wasn't really what I wanted to do. I didn't like it. I just want to come back. And here's the interesting thing about that, by the way, that just intrigues me even today. At the time, she had left a management position within our company. She was in management. She was in management and then in a higher internal customer role. And so she had left, and in coming back, I didn't have a position for her. I had nothing to offer her. So I said, well, I'd love to have you back, but I don't have anything for you, nothing open right now. If you come back, you're going to have to come back into production, into production on the floor. Making less than what she was making. I didn't know how long she would be there. I said, I would give you a chance to grow and do something else, but that's what's going to have to happen. And she said, I just want to come back. And you know, she did. She did. She came back. She worked in production for a while and worked her way back up into a higher responsibility role within our company. It's okay if you set out to achieve one of your dreams and it's not everything that you thought it was going to be. That's okay. The important thing is that you keep dreaming, that you keep going, that you keep putting yourself out there. You know, I love the saying, timing, perseverance, and 10 years of trying will eventually make you an overnight success. It's true. It's true. People see you in some light or in some position. Oh, look at them. It just all fell on them. Right? Never mind what you just put into that, but keep pushing. You can put the work in to reposition yourself in the career that you've been longing for. You can better balance your life so you can have time with your family and time with your career and do the other things that are important to you. You can, and I know this to be true, you can go back to school. I worked full-time and went back to school full-time. You can do it. It can happen. And with some research and a little bit of networking, you can have that business that you've always wanted. I promise you there are no traffic jams along the extra mile. None. There are no traffic jams along the extra mile. You can absolutely do anything you want if you're willing to put the work and the effort in, but you won't do any of it if you don't allow yourself to dream a dream again. You won't. So what's the key to unlocking that dark spot, that dusty place in us? It's about motivation, isn't it? Motivation. So you need to identify what your motivators are. And there are a number of them. For some of us, it's money. For some of us, it's family. For some of us, it's the fear of failure. For others, it's the deep desire to make a difference. For others, it's a cause. I can tell you my son, when he was 3 years old, was diagnosed with leukemia, ALL. And you talk about a great story. He was diagnosed with leukemia, and today, do you know where he's at right now as I stand here on this platform? He's away at med school. He's at med school. He went on, obviously, and put a lot of work and effort in, and he's going on to be a doctor. He's cured, and he was cured when he was younger, and he's going on with his life. He knew what his motivation was, and it was to make a difference, and to heal, and to give back based on what the doctors did for him. Aaron Ralston, life or death is motivation, right? How many of you know the story of Aaron Ralston? Oh, you're kidding me. Just a couple? Oh, let me tell you something. I will try to do this and not be gory about it, but let me tell you something. One of the most powerful stories you'll ever, and you know, as soon as I start to tell it, you'll probably know what it is, because there was a movie out about it. They didn't say Aaron Ralston, but he was hiking, and he became trapped in this kind of cavern. A boulder rolled over onto his arm and trapped him there. He was alone for days. Nobody came to rescue him. He just happened to have a camcorder with him, so he was videotaping this experience. He was saying goodbye to his family. He was completely dehydrated, not doing well. He had taken a pocket knife that he had that was all that he had, and he chipped away at the boulder, trying to break the boulder away from his arm, pinned against the rock wall. And when he realized that that was a futile effort, in a moment of desperateness, after he had been there for some time, what was it, a day and a half, it was some amount of time, while he was there, he ended up taking that same dull pocket knife, and I won't go into too much detail, but he cut his own arm off. And you see there in the picture, ladies, the prosthetic arm that he has there. He cut his own arm off to break free. Talk about motivation, right? The motivation was life. The motivation was, I just want to live. And I'm telling you, Google it. If you get the chance to, and don't go and watch the movie that they made. Go and watch, they did a documentary on him years ago. I think it was 2020 or something like that, many years ago. Go and Google it and watch the documentary. It's a multiple part series. His name's Aaron Ralston. And I'm telling you, it's moving, it's a powerful story. And then how about this, ladies? Right? Yeah? That's serious motivation right there, right? The motivation to succeed, to triumph, to accomplish things that the city has not accomplished in many, 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 many years. Motivation. You must know what your motivation is, because if you know what your motivation is and you marry that with your dreams, there is nothing that can stop you. Nothing. So I just want to share a brief video with you, and then I will wrap up.
It is not death most people are afraid of. It is getting to the end of life only to realize that you never truly lived. There was a study done, a hospital study, on 100 elderly people facing death close to their last breath. They were asked to reflect about their life's biggest regret. Nearly all of them said they regretted not the things they did, but the things they didn't do. The risks they never took, the dreams they didn't pursue. I ask you, will your last words be, if only I had, hey, you, wake up. Why do you exist? Life is not meant to simply work, wait for the weekend, and pay rent. No, I don't know much, but I know this. Every person on this earth has a gift. And I apologize to the black community, but I can no longer pretend. Martin Luther King, that man never had a dream. That dream had him. See, people don't choose dreams. Dreams choose them. So the question I'm getting to is, do you have the courage to grab the dream that picked you, that befits you and grips you? Or will you let it get away and slip through? You know, I learned a fact about airplanes the other day. Now, this was so surprising. See, I was talking to a pilot, and he told me that many of his passengers think planes are dangerous to fly in. But he said, actually, it is a lot more dangerous for a plane to stay on the ground. I said, what? Like, how does that sound? Well, he said because on the ground, the plane starts to rust, malfunction, and wear much faster than it ever would if it was in the air. As I walked away, I thought, yeah, makes total sense. Because planes were built to live in the skies. And every person was built to live out the dream they have inside. So it is perhaps the saddest loss to live a life on the ground without ever taking off. See, most of us are afraid of the thief that comes in the night to steal all of our things. But there's a thief in your mind who is after your dreams. His name is doubt. If you see him, call the cops and keep him away from the kids, because he is wanted for murder, for he has killed more dreams than failure ever did. He wears many disguises, and like a virus will leave you blind and divided and turn you into a kinda. See, kinda is lethal. You know what kinda is. There's a lot of kinda people. You kinda want a career change. You kinda want to get straight A's. You kinda want to get in shape. Simple math, no numbers to crunch. If you kinda want something, then you will kinda get the results you want. What is your dream? What ignites that spark? You can't kinda want that. You gotta want it with every part of your whole heart. Will you struggle? Yeah, you will struggle, no way around it. You will fall many times, but who's counting? Just remember, there's no such thing as a smooth mountain. If you wanna make it to the top, then there are sharp ridges that must be stepped over. There will be times you get stressed and things you get depressed over, but let me tell you something. Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school three times, but he kept going. The television execs fired Oprah, said she wasn't fit for TV, but she kept going. Critics told Beyonce that she couldn't sing, she went through depression, but she kept going. Struggle and criticisms are prerequisites for greatness. That is the law of this universe, and no one escapes it. Because pain is life, but you can choose what type. Either the pain on the road to success, or the pain of being haunted with regret. You want my advice? Don't think twice. We have been given a gift that we call life, so don't blow it. You are not defined by your past. Instead, you are born anew in each moment. So own it now. Sometimes you gotta leap and grow your wings on the way down. You better get the shot off before the clock runs out, because ain't no overtime in life, no do-over. And I know I sound like I'm preaching or speaking with force, but if you don't use your gift, then you sell not only yourself, but the whole world short. So what invention do you have buried in your mind? What idea, what cure, what skill do you have inside to bring out to this universe? Uni meaning one, verse meaning song. You have a part to play in this song. So grab that microphone and be brave. Sing your heart out on life stage. You cannot go back and make a brand new beginning, but you can start now and make a brand new ending.
So powerful, right? I wish that everything that he said, that I believed that every moment of my life for myself. I wish that I embraced that all the time. But I, like you, get caught up in the day-to-day. I, like you, have forgotten how to dream at times. I, like you, have had to overcome many things in life. I heard someone say recently, women, I was listening to a woman who was teaching, and she said, ladies, she was teaching women, she said, women, she said, we have lived our entire lives just to come up with a thimbleful of knowledge. And it's true, some days it feels like that. But I want to encourage you today as we close to be a woman who knows herself. A woman who knows her influencers and seeks after the good ones that will grow her and launch her to the next phase. And a woman who knows her mission by knowing her dreams, knowing what that looks like. You, my friends, can I call you friends at this point in the day? I'm just telling you, if you said no, I probably would just sit right down here and dry my eyes out. I would do that. But you, ladies, my friends, are influencing people every day of your lives. You will have the opportunity to influence people every day going forward. I would encourage you, ladies, because everybody wants to be influenced by a woman who knows who they are, who allows themselves to be positively influenced, or to take the negative influences and convert them by choice into positive action and positive outcome, and know that they are a dreamer because of a sparkle in their eyes and a passion in their words and a willpower and a tenacity that is unparalleled. I don't know about you, but that's the type of woman I want to be. And I don't know about you, but that's the type of women that I look for to surround myself with and to influence me. And so I would challenge us all as women to embrace these three truths and to go out from here and collectively, with everything that we've learned today, everything that we've been exposed to today, to go outside of these doors, hundreds of women. That's a big force and a lot of power in one room. And you're all going back to your respective workplaces, your families, your lives. Take everything that you've received here at this conference and go outside of those doors and make a difference. Make a difference. Thank you so much for having me.